Craven, I want you to give me what you believe the story of Texas football season is entering 2025. What is the biggest storyline that needs to be talked about?
Can they get over the hump?
I love it.
You look around the country, and Ohio State and Ryan Day just did that. And Sarkisian was on our cover. It feels like him and Dan Lanning are the expected coaches to be the next national champions. They've been on the doorstep the last 2 years with a more upperclassman, elder, experienced quarterback. They've lost so much at wide receiver. They lost so much at defensive tackle. Are they a national championship contender? And has everybody kind of come back to the field? We had Ari Wasserman on a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about this. Like, the roster you need to win a national championship in 2025 isn't the roster you needed in 2019 to win a national championship. So there's a lot of questions about Texas, but there's a lot of questions about everyone else. I think Texas is a national championship contender. We had them number 1 in the top 25 in the magazine. And for me, it's just if they can get over that hump, can they get past the semifinals, get into the championship game, and possibly win it?
Yeah, it's very similar to the storyline I picked, which is I think this is the state of Texas's only program that has a legit national championship aspiration. Like A&M, SMU, yes, on the outside, looking in, they could win the national championship, but that would be a stretch. That would be a surprise. I don't think it'd be surprising if Texas won the national championship. They're one of the odds-on favorites. What has prevented them, you think, in the past couple of years from getting over that hump? I know when Ari Wasserman talked about it, he said they've put themselves in a position to go to the national championship, which is what you can hope for before you win them, right? It takes a lot of time. But what has been preventing them from getting over the hump in the semifinals?
I think in 2023, it was their secondary. They gave up too many big plays. We saw that throughout the season. That Oklahoma game in Red River that they had lost kind of, reared its ugly head as well. And so they just kind of avoided big time passing attacks. And then they ran into Michael Penix, who was on fire, right? Like NBA Jam on fire during that Sugar Bowl game. And Texas just couldn't stop them. And they were, within a throw of winning that game there at the very end. And then I think in 2024, Ohio State was just a better roster. I think that was that was definitely the best roster in college football. I think they were deeper on both lines of scrimmage. I think they had more playmakers on both sides of the football. And again, they were a 4th or a 2nd and goal play call away, from maybe tying that one up and things get interesting there. So I think it's very small margins. I think this tournaments make it harder to close. It used to be harder and easier to win a national championship at the same time, harder to build a roster that was good enough to compete. But if you're Texas, you always could with how you can recruit. But now there's just a lot of variance. Like, you're going to have to win 3 or 4 games in December, January to win it. You have to get there through a 12-game gauntlet, really a 13-game gauntlet if you get to the SEC championship. So I think the small margins are there, and just Michael Penix had the game of his life, and then Ohio State was a buzzsaw that Texas hung there with. So I think they're right there on the doorstep. I think they built a roster that can compete. This year, it's can they handle big-time road games? You go at Ohio State, you go at Georgia, you go at Florida. Oklahoma game's a neutral game. You're going to have to win 2 out of those 4 to guarantee your spot into the playoff. And then it's just Arch Manning, which could have been the easy, most intriguing storyline is just what is Arch Manning, and is the quarterback position a plus? I think Ewers was a very good college quarterback. If they had an elite college quarterback, like if Michael Penix was on Texas's roster in 2023, they probably win the national championship. And so if Arch Manning is that, if he is a net gain against these other teams, if he's one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the country, I think that makes this road a lot easier for Texas as well.
So was Arch Manning your pick for this player has to hit for them to be good?
I went another way just because I kind of thought we would talk about Arch Manning and the most intriguing storyline. I thought that would.
I didn't pick Arch for this player either, or the main storyline.
Right. So I thought you would. I thought you would on the most intriguing storyline. And so I stayed away from it on the player because I think we could probably do quarterback on all of them.
Yes.
Your quarterback's going to have to be good. They're going to have to be a plus for you to achieve your dreams and to reach your goals. I went Kobe Black.
I love that pick.
Malik Muhammad's kind of stepping in as the number 1 cornerback. You lose the Thorpe Award winner on the other side. Jalen Gilbo kind of seems like he's in no man's land. Like, is he going to be the nickel back? Is he going to just be a cornerback? Kobe Black's a former 5-star corner. Waco Connolly, long, lean, kind of just looks like the prototypical corner that everybody wants right now. If he can be a really good player, if he can be that 5-star level talent in his second year on campus, you pair him with Malik Muhammad in what I think is one of the better safety rooms in the country, if not the best safety room in the country. All of a sudden, Texas secondary doesn't take a step back. The front four is going to be great with the pass rushers. The linebackers are going to be tremendous, led by Anthony Hill. To me, the only real question mark is what that other cornerback does. And if Kobe Black can step in and be that guy, Texas could have the best defense in the country.
Yeah, I saw a stat that Texas is one of 4 schools with a PFF grade in the top 10 for their D-line, linebackers, and secondary. An absolutely loaded defense. I love that pick because Kobe Black is the one question. That was my runner-up. I went with right tackle Brandon Baker for my pick because then this might just be because every time I close my eyes, I see the Ohio State game and Cameron Williams on the struggle bus against Jack Sawyer, and Sawyer strip sacking Quinn Ewers to bring Ohio State to the championship game. But I think another part of Texas's story in recruiting in recent years is that they have not recruited the offensive line position at an elite level since the 2022 class. And now a lot of those guys have gone on to the NFL. And because I was looking at it yesterday, in 2022, they've signed 4 4-stars. And they had, since the 2022 class, in 2023, 2024, 2025, they've had only 4 total 4-stars, if that makes sense. So 4 4-stars in 2022 alone, at least, and then a total of 4 4-stars since then. It's guys like Jaden Chapman, who I have not seen play just yet at one of the interior line spots. Peyton Kirkland is now at Miami, Ohio. Trevor Gooseby, they've got high hopes for him at left tackle. Connor Stroh, Andre Kojo have not come to fruition yet at Texas. And then 2024, it's Brandon Baker. He was kind of the crown jewel of that class. Daniel Cruz and Nate Kibble. So a lot riding on Brandon Baker's shoulders on right tackle, I think.
Yeah, the offensive line could easily be the answer to the next one. Why is nobody talking about this aspect of the team? It feels like Texas is getting a benefit of the doubt that they used to not. You used to go into seasons and it'd be like, Texas has talent, but they'll probably lose a game or two that they're not supposed to. They're soft. Like they were always like the opposite of the benefit of the doubt, right? Like it was waiting for the shoe to drop for Texas. They're not going to reach their expectations, especially on the offensive line. Like they went over a decade without having an offensive lineman drafted. Like that was a barren development position. It does feel like you're losing the best offensive lineman in college football. You're losing 4 of your 5 starters, and people just assume that the Longhorns are going to plug and play and be one of the better offensive line units in the country. We'll see. Maybe they are. I think Trevor Gooseby is really good. Like I like what they're doing. I think they're going to get at least more physical at center with Cole Hudson. Like I don't want to say that they're going to get better when you lose a guy who started like 50 games, right? I don't want to just assume they're going to get better there, but I think it's going to be a different kind of center. I think they're going to be physical on the interior, probably a better punch you in the mouth, run the ball 3rd and 1. I think they're going to be better in the red zone, but there's elite pass rushers that they're going to play in 4 or 5 games on that schedule. And you're trusting 2 sophomore offensive tackles that haven't played a ton. I think that they have a lot of talent. I think they're both going to be NFL players, but do they hit the ground running? And with a new quarterback there and just kind of what you can do in terms of protection, I think it's an underrated part of the Longhorns season.
Yeah, this is where I worked in Arch Manning to the discussion because I had a very similar take as you. But my twist is Arch Manning could be better than Quinn Ewers, and this team still has a worse record. It feels like with Texas's program, fans are saying, hey, sub Quinn Ewers out for Arch Manning. This team goes to the national championship and maybe wins it. And maybe that was true in 2023 and 2024, but it's a lot of projection with this Texas team. And I've fallen into that trap because wide receiver Ryan Wingo, what if he's not actually as good as Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams that people are saying, oh, if he just had as many opportunities as those guys, he would have been as good as them and on the NCAA college football cover. I'm also concerned about the interior defensive line. We've already talked about the offensive line too, having 4 new starters there. There's a lot of projection, and if those guys don't pan out like the guys they're replacing, maybe Arch Manning is like a Heisman contender type quarterback, but they still fall in the semifinals or even like the first round of the playoffs, or maybe they go 9-3 and miss it all. Like it could happen.
Yeah, I mean, my why is nobody talking about this aspect of the team is, are we sure the offense is as good as it's been the last 2 years? And that plays into the offensive line conversation that we've had. It plays into the targets that you were just mentioning. DeAndre Moore is probably the only proven wide receiver that Texas has back. We think Ryan Wingo is going to be good. Emmett Mosley has done it, but not at Texas. Is Parker Livingstone going to be a guy? Or some of those freshmen like Khalil Lockett or a Jamie French or Michael Terry, are they able to come in and be instant impact guys as true freshmen? It's not as easy as it seems. Not everybody is Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. We saw Ryan Wingo last year kind of struggle with consistency into getting onto the football field. And then the biggest one is, are we sure that Arch Manning is a finished product, right? Like, I feel like we're all talking about Arch Manning and his, like, what he can be or what he's going to become. But I'm not sure that's what we're going to see in week 1 in Columbus. I'm not sure it's what we're going to see in the Swamp the week before Red River. We've all grown up watching Red River games. Like, that can make a mouse out of you, as a starting quarterback, the first time that it's your game, that it's your time to be in that arena. And then obviously at Georgia and just the SEC gauntlet, I have no doubt that Arch Manning is going to be a better quarterback than Quinn Ewers. I do have some doubts that it happens in 2025 or that it happens quick enough for Texas to still be in the running. Like, let's say Texas goes and loses at Ohio State. Well, if they lose to Florida and or Oklahoma, like, they could be out of it by mid-October. And so, like, he's got to be good early on, and not good at DKR against Mississippi State and UTSA. Like, good in big games on the road where everybody and their mama is going to be talking about it, right? Like, there hasn't been a college football player with this many eyeballs on them in a long, long time. Like, they're going to talk about him on First Take. They're going to talk about him on national shows that don't talk a lot of college football. Like, he is a superstar in a sport where usually it's just the head coaches. I put Arch Manning as first team All-State quarterback. So, like, I am buying into it. I think he's good enough to lead this team to a national championship. I just said I had them, picked first in our top 25. I had Texas first in our SEC ballot. So I believe, but that doesn't mean that it's real. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. And I think we've just kind of, not you and I only, but I think we just kind of assumed that quarterback is going to be a position of power, that it's going to be an advantage for Texas. And I'm not sure in practice that's going to be true right off the gate in 2025. And if it's not, then Texas is a team that has some holes around him. If he's not able to fill those holes, like, what are the Longhorns?
This is going to sound like an insult. I promise it's not. Bear with me. Quinn Ewers was elite at throwing the worst interception you've ever seen on the first drive of a football game, and then coming back and being lights out for the rest of the game. It did not faze him if he had a bad play. And he won a lot of games after starting off with a bad play. Does Arch Manning have that same ability? I think remains to be seen. But both you and I are very bullish on this Texas team as a national championship contender. I saw on your all-Texas team, Texas has 19 selections, and A&M was second with 9. So by a large margin, I think they are the clear-cut national title favorite in this state and, quite honestly, in college football. It just remains to be seen, like we said before, if Sark can get over that hump. I do think there are 2 different types of, can this coach get over that hump? There's the James Franklin of, he has not done it and repeatedly failed to do so. And I think Sark still has a lot of grace in terms of, it's only been twice. I wouldn't put those losses entirely on him. Like you mentioned, it's kind of the secondary, and then it's a bit of the offensive line / quarterback play in the Ohio State game. Now, we had Paul Feinbaum on the show, and he took some shots at Sarkisian, which I think are fair, about his play calling on the goal line at the end of that Ohio State game. So that's the one thing you could nitpick Sark for. But by and large, I think even Paul and most other media pundits give him the benefit of the doubt right now.
Yeah, it's because James Franklin hasn't won big games like Sark has. Like, Sark's gone on the road and beaten Alabama. He's beaten his rival in Oklahoma a couple times. They took care of A&M at Kyle Field. Like, I think he's proven that he's up for the challenge. It's just a matter of winning the right ones at the right times. Ryan Day can't beat his rival. James Franklin can't beat a team that also recruits well. I put Sark in the Dan Lanning, we assume it's a matter of time camp. I will say this feels like the last year of that grace period.
Oh, for sure.
If they go semifinals again or barely make the playoffs, or God forbid they don't make the playoffs at all, Arch Manning comes back in 2026, and it feels like that's nut cutting time. Right. Like that is when you have to go win, They've recruited towards that year. 2025, I think, could be argued it's not rebuild. You can't rebuild at UT, right? You reload. But I wouldn't be surprised if this team underachieves. 2026 is going to be the year where the questions really start coming at Sark, I think, if it doesn't come this year.
That's when we have a full narrative going
Right.
about Sark can't win the big one.